Back in the day, almost nobody was fat, and now everyone's fat. Look at our portion sizes. It's obvious it's just that we're eating too much, right? You might see charts like this that show that our calorie consumption has been going up over the last 50 or so years. Now, this directly parallels how fat we've gotten over that same time period, and it's pretty obvious that that's the problem. But what they won't show you is a chart like this. This is what that same chart looks like if you extended back 50 years prior. If you look at the average calories consumed in the United States in 1909 and 1990, they're essentially the exact same, yet obesity rose by more than sixfold over that same time period. Now, this is what that same chart looks like if you extend it 20 years forward. If you look at the amount of calories that we consumed in the year 2000 versus the year 2018, what do we see? It's the exact same. This is what that chart looks like in Japan, in the UK, and in Australia. Not so clear cut anymore, is it? The reality is that we've really been lied to about the obesity story, and there's something much bigger going on. This means that the calories that we consume now is actually probably an overestimate because this data comes from purchasing data, not the actual amount of calories that we eat. The reality is that we actually throw away much more of those calories now than we did back then. Well, maybe it's just because we're not moving enough, right? We need to exercise more. Well, in that same time period, more Americans now than ever are actually exercising. Then what happens if we look at other countries? If we look at the United Kingdom, what do we see? This data for the UK looks much different. In fact, calorie supply has stayed roughly the same since the 1960s in the United Kingdom. But in terms of obesity, that prevalence continues to skyrocket. Other studies have shown that when you actually look at calorie consumption and not just purchasing data, that in the United Kingdom, calorie consumption has actually decreased since the 1950s. In that same time period, obesity has tripled in the United Kingdom. Then let's go to Japan. If we look at the calorie supply, since 1990, it's actually decreased. Meanwhile, obesity has tripled in that same time period. If we go to Australia, we see much of the same thing. Calorie supply for essentially a 50-year span from the 70s until the 2010s remained the same. But in that same time period, obesity more than doubled. Now, if we start looking deeper into some other types of studies, we see exactly the same thing. A group of researchers in the Netherlands in the 1980s went and studied people's consumption of calories over time and how their obesity changed. What did they find? They actually found that the top 25% of obese people actually consumed anywhere from 300 to 400 calories fewer than the bottom 25%. So that means that the fattest people in that cohort were eating significantly less than the leanest people. And again, this is food that's actually being tracked by the scientists. This is no longer just purchasing data on a population level. This is actually looking at what people eat. Then if we look at those people over time, it's pretty common to see people blow up after they're 30 or so, and they get progressively fatter as they get into their older age until their 70s. Well, that's exactly what they saw in this study. But they did not see a parallel increase in food consumption. In fact, it was the exact opposite. People got fatter as they got older, yet they started to eat less. In fact, you actually eat the most when you're around 18 years old and in your youth, but obesity tends to peak in your middle age when you start to eat progressively less. Now, one common criticism of a lot of these studies is that people will say that, well, people who are overweight or obese, they tend to underreport how much they eat because they're self-conscious about that and they try to, basically it's just a cope. And that actually is true to a certain degree. But if we actually look at the study where this idea really originated, we see that yes, the obese people do underreport their food. But when you actually take those same people and actually measure how much they eat, they're still eating less than the lean people. Some older studies showed the same thing. In this paper, they found that obese adolescents actually ate significantly fewer calories than their lean counterparts. Another study here showed the same thing for high school girls, that the obese high school girls actually ate way less than their lean counterparts. Even more recent research backs this up. A study in 2006 showed the same thing, that obese adolescents actually do eat less than lean adolescents. And again, they did this by directly weighing their food. There's no reporting here. Another study in 2011 did the same thing. They tried to look at adults and the obese adults versus the lean adults and what was their trends of their food consumption. And they saw the same thing, that there was no difference between obese people and lean people's calorie consumption. Another thing that completely just blows up the entire paradigm is the notion that people who are more wealthy are actually leaner despite eating significantly more, and they have typically less physically demanding jobs. So really they eat more and they move less, yet they're significantly leaner. We can see examples of this all throughout history. You should check out this video here that we did about a year ago, documenting multiple accounts of the pre-1960s era of people eating tons and tons of calories, including tons of sugar, and there was no reports of them being obese. They were all still lean. So what exactly is going on? Well, there's a lot of things, but the absolute most important takeaway is that we cannot think of obesity as a simple balancing equation. Obesity is not just a problem of how much you eat versus how much you don't. Obesity is a problem, it's a disease just like any other disease. So we need to look deeper into the biology, into the biochemistry, and into the actual mechanisms that are going on. Ultimately, inappropriate fat gain is a health issue just like any other. Really what we're dealing with here is a metabolic issue. Now, things that can destroy your metabolism and promote fat gain include, but are not limited to, poor thyroid function, eating seed oils, a lack of micronutrients, gut inflammation, high serotonin, environmental toxins or obesogens, other sources of chronic inflammation like heavy metals or mycotoxins, chronic stress, disrupted circadian rhythms, a lack of sunlight, a lack of muscle mass, among tons and tons of other factors. Now, we're gonna have a lot more content on this exact issue coming out in the future. I've already posted a ton about it, both on Instagram and in our X page, which you should definitely check out for more. But if you do want personalized one-on-one in-depth help with stubborn weight gain or really with any other health issue, definitely click the link right here or in the description below. It's a free call and we'll be able to formulate a game plan for you on how to tackle these issues. Also, lab testing can be very valuable, and for that, you can order labs in the United States without a doctor at a discount using Revelation Diagnostics. And there's sections there for labs that might be able to help you identify certain metabolic issues. But that's gonna be it for this video. Like I said, stay tuned for more on this issue and definitely go check out our other social media platforms where we've already covered those issues in detail.